Hello everyone, my name is Mia Teller, and today I'm going to be talking with you about the two velar stops, K and G. Their sounds are K and G. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so first up, I am going to be talking to you about K. So first I'm going to explain K is a stop consonant, so its manner is stop. Manner is referring to the type of sound you make, so it makes sense that the manner is stop because it is a stop consonant. When you pronounce K, the airflow stops momentarily in the oral cavity before coming out again. Next up, we have the place, referring to where in the mouth shaping occurs. So in this case, K happens at the velar. As you can see down here, the velar here, it has K and G, and it connects right here at the velar, kind of the back of the throat at the top. That's when the tongue kind of connects up to the velar, and it makes the K sound. And then finally, we're going to talk about the voicing of K. So K is unvoiced and an aspirated stop. Now voicing is describing whether or not the vocal folds are vibrating or not. So in this case, it is unvoiced because when you make the k, k, k sound, your vocal folds are not vibrating. If you want to go ahead and try it yourself, you put your hand up to your throat and do k, k, k a couple times, and you don't feel any vibration down there. It's because it's unvoiced. K is also an aspirated stop. So the puff of air comes out as you are saying the K sound. So if you're saying cat, it comes out with the K, cat. Okay? Moving on, we're going to talk about G. So G and K are very similar. So both of their manners are stops. So they both have a stop consonant, and they both happen at the velar again, which is right back here on my little chart down there. Both K and G are velars. Okay, and finally the difference between these guys is the voicing. So G's voicing is voiced. If you want to go ahead, put your hand up to your throat and make the G, G, G sound. You can feel your vocal cords vibrating, which is very different from K. So G is voiced, and it is an unaspirated stop, meaning that puff of air can come out at any point as you are pronouncing G. Moving on to how we pronounce K, kind of the anatomy here. All right, so we're going to go ahead. The back dorsal goes to the velar, kind of the tongue goes to the back. The tongue connects to the velar, and the velar is closed. So as you can see, here's my velar, and here's the tongue. So what's going to happen is the K is going to come up from here, okay? And then it's going to come here, and the tongue and the velum will connect, and the K will come out, and out through the mouth, and you have the K sound. Okay? Now moving on to how we pronounce G and the anatomy of G. It's kind of similar. Remember, the only difference here is this voicing. So down here, the vocal folds will vibrate together to make the G sound. And then it's going to come up through here, and the tongue will connect to the velar. And then it's going to come back out here, and you have the G sound. Okay, so again, here's the velar, here's the tongue. They both connect. You have the vibrating vocal cords, and out comes G. Okay. Moving on, I'm going to explain a couple minimal pair examples between K and G. Minimal pair examples are when you have two different words and they are both spelled the same except for two speech sounds. So a couple examples here to kind of help. So the first one here, I have cab and gab. Now the only difference here is the K and the G sound. I would like to point out I am using C in this case because I'm referring to the K sound, not necessarily the letter K. Okay, and then I have cape and gape. Okay, again, the only difference, K and G. All right, and finally, clam, lamb, and glam, glam. All right, so the only difference here, see these all connect to each other. That's a bad color. These connect with each other, okay. And these are the difference right here. C, G, the K and the G. Okay. Moving on, we have rules of transcription for K. So in this case, you're always going to want to use the / around the transcription for K, indicating that you are transcribing it. And you also want to make sure that your K is lowercase, because in this case we are talking about K, the K sound. And you want to make sure that you're doing the lowercase because the lowercase k refers to K. Getting a little more technical down here, when K is the second member of a consonant cluster, immediately following a fricative, it should be unaspirated. So that's basically saying when you have a word and K is not the stressed syllable, it should be unaspirated. So in this case, when I'm looking down here at my example skin, sorry about that, I'm looking at skin here, your stressed syllable is going to be up at the front with the S, and you're kind of grazing over the skin, or grazing over the K. So when I say skin, you don't necessarily hear me enunciate on the K. So that's just kind of what this is describing, is that your K here is unaspirated because it is not the stressed syllable. Now this kind of goes on to my next point here of when K is at the beginning of a stressed syllable, it is always aspirated. So in this case we have kiss. Now when I pronounce kiss, you can clearly hear me saying the K sound. So in this case, the stressed syllable of K is going to be aspirated because it is at the beginning of this of the sentence. It is the stressed syllable. Okay. Moving on to rules of transcription for G. You always want to make sure that you use the / around the transcription, just like when you're transcribing K. You do the same for G. And it's the same thing here. The G sound is the lowercase g, so you want to make sure that you have that lowercase g in those /. Down here, we have G occurs when it appears before consonants L, R, and sometimes H. So my example here was glove. As you can see, the G, the G sound, is followed by an L. Now this kind of moves on to my next point here of G making the harder G sound when it is followed by these 3 vowels, A, O, and U. So in this case, gap. You can kind of hear a little bit of a difference if I say glove and if I say gap. Because it is next to the vowel, it's having that harder G sound. I put hard in quotation marks just as kind of a differentiate it. But as you can see, if I say glove and if I say gap, you kind of hear more of the G sound. All right, and I'm going to finish up here with just a couple questions for you guys to answer. So I'm going to give you the question and then I'll give you the answer after a couple seconds. So first up, we have, why are some sounds called stops? Give a couple seconds. All right, and the answer is they're called stops when the airstream is completely blocked in the oral cavity for a short period of time. So K and G are both stop sounds. My next question here, is K produced at the alveolar place of articulation? Now the answer to that is no. K is produced when the tongue is connected to the soft palate, or as I've referred to it a couple times in the presentation as the velar. And the last question here is a true or false. I have G and K are both aspirated stops. Is that true or is that false? We have a couple seconds here. All right, and so the answer to that is false. Only K is an aspirated sound and G is unaspirated. All right, so that is all I have for you today in my presentation here on the velar stops of G and K. As you can see on this last slide here, I have my citations of the different sites and the books and lectures that I used on this presentation, throughout the presentation. I really hoped you enjoyed. Thank you for watching, listening, answering questions. I do appreciate it, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you. Goodbye.